Hi, everybody. I left a space for Mel this time.
And I didn't take it. I wanted to see if you'd make a fool of yourself.
Welcome to Super Breakfast Friends Club, the show where I just did that thing.
And that's all we're gonna do. Goodbye. I hate this show.
Then why are you on it?
I signed a contract in blood and I can't get out of it.
The contract says that you can leave the show if you just take a shower.
Like I said, I can't get out of it.
Let's listen to the theme song of a cartoon show based on a video game.
Is it Mario?
Hey, paisanos! It's the Super Mario Brothers Super Show!
With the Mario Brothers and plumbing's a game. We're not like the others who get all the fame. If your sink is in trouble, you can call us on the double. We're faster than the others, you'll be hooked on the brothers. Hooked on the brothers. Yo, you're in for a treat, so hang on to your seat. Get ready for adventure and remarkable feats. You'll meet Koopas and Troopers, the princess and the others. Hanging with the plumbers, you'll be hooked on the brothers. To the bridge.
So you may be wondering why, in an episode titled The Legend of Zelda, we just heard a song about the Super Mario Brothers.
And you would be a fool to be wondering that.
Obviously. You should know what's up if you'd listened to our Super Mario Brothers Super Show episodes, which you have, right? So this show was made as part of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, which would air Mario cartoons on Mondays to Thursdays and Zelda cartoons on Fridays. Mel, have you ever heard of The Legend of Zelda?
Is that the one where the blocks fall down from the top of the screen and you have to match them up and it disappears?
Sometimes. The Legend of Zelda was released in 1986, was made by Nintendo, and it was released on the NES. Although in Japan it was originally released on the Famicom Disk System, which was a floppy disk add-on for the NES. Yeah, it gave the NES expanded sound features and the ability to save games.
That does sound useful for a Zelda game.
Yeah, I mean, by the time we got it for the NES outside of Japan, they had come up with a way to have save games in NES cartridges anyway, so we still had it.
Yeah, but it's not a fun spinning disc.
It sure isn't. And it'll never be again.
Discs are dead. Long live discs.
So Zelda was created by Shigeru Miyamoto, creator of the Mario series. We've talked about him many times.
I've never heard of him.
Well, you won't be hearing about him in this episode. Zelda was based on his childhood memories of exploring his surroundings, I guess.
Fighting moblins?
Yeah. Well, you've never looked inside a bush and found a Skulltula?
Not a gold one. Maybe a regular one.
You've never been beset by skeletons on the mountain trail?
Oh, that happens all the time, but that's usually because I have brought them with me.
That's usually just me being rowdy.
That's just me and the boys out for a hike.
No, I read a story he told about this time that he was out hiking and he found a lake that he didn't know was there, and he wanted to recreate that sense of wonder. So he made Zelda a huge open world filled with secrets because he wanted players to communicate with each other and share the different secrets they've found.
But there were only like 5 people that played video games back then. Who are you going to talk to?
Everyone in your class better have played The Legend of Zelda if they want to be part of the current conversation.
I feel like that's ignoring, the financial entry point of having a Nintendo Entertainment System.
Well, yeah. Takashi Tezuka co-directed the game, and he also wrote the story. We talked about him before when we covered the Super Mario World show, because he's the guy who is credited with creating Yoshi as well. What?
I wanted to see what would happen if I did a Google image search of Zelda. Nothing more specific than that. And not too far down the list, I see a still image of that man that someone constructed in Tears of the Kingdom with the dragon rocket penis.
Oh, good. I'm glad to know that he's so prevalent already.
He's ascended the throne where he belongs.
Yeah, of course.
He's going to be in the next Zelda as the new Link.
It's going to be in the next Smash Brothers. Most of the development of this show is shared with the development of the Super Mario Super Show, so I feel like it would be a waste of time to go over all of it again. If you want to know a lot of the details about it, you could go and listen to our first episode on the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. And today we're just going to talk about the stuff that's specific to the Zelda segment of it.
Like the parts with Mario.
Since the focus of the Mario Super Show was on Mario, obviously, the Zelda team were pretty much just given a franchise Bible and then left to their own devices.
They actually got, like, notes about what they should do.
Oh, yeah. They were also given a VHS recording of a playthrough of the first game, which was apparently being played by Tanya Roberts, one of the stars of Charlie's Angels, for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know why.
This is already 5,000% more work that went into the making of Captain N.
And they were also given a Japanese copy of the second Zelda game, which was not out in America yet at the time.
And no one could understand.
There's not much to understand. Like, all the text is super badly translated, even in the English version. You walk up to people and they say things like, "I am error."
I do say that a lot in real life, so I don't know where you're getting this bad translation idea.
I read a quote from John Groost. I think that's how that's pronounced. He was the director of the show. He says that he got so good at those first two Zelda games that he could beat both of them in less than 2 minutes.
Is that when you fire up the game and then immediately turn it off?
I thought that was quite a claim. Now, I'm not sure if he's saying he could beat both of them in 2 minutes or if he could beat each of them in 2 minutes. I thought it was unclear.
I still feel like that's a tall order.
Well, I went away and I looked at the speedrun records to see how doable that was.
Uh-huh.
The speedrun record for Zelda 1 is 27 minutes.
Okay.
And the record for Zelda 2 is about 15 minutes.
And these people know what they're doing.
But this guy could beat them both in less than 2 minutes, so step aside, speedrunners. Apparently you're garbage. The director...
I don't care how many hours of your life you've dedicated to finding every single time-saving exploit. This man knows more.
The director of the Zelda cartoon 1989 can beat both of them in 2 minutes. Less than 2 minutes. So take that.
Are we sure that he's not also thinking of Tetris?
You beat Tetris in 2 minutes? That you can't even... Oh, yeah, I guess you can speed that game up. But why would you? That's terrifying.
I don't know. People get real scary good with Tetris.
Yeah, I can't be in a room with those people.
I get overwhelmed when I have more than 5 rows.
I get overwhelmed when I have anything except the straight line piece.
Why is this one bendy? What do I do?
Do you want to take a guess at what the main inspiration behind this show was?
Every cheesy fantasy from the 80s?
That's what the game was inspired by, I guess. But the show had a very specific inspirational hook. That hook was Moonlighting, a 1985 comedy drama starring Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis, about two private detectives who solve crimes while just barely avoiding having sex with each other each week.
That's definitely the first thing that comes to mind when I think of The Legend of Zelda.
They, for whatever reason, the main thing that the writers kept in mind was the sexual tension between Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis in Moonlighting. That's what they were aiming for with the Zelda show.
Okay. There are a lot of problems with that sentence. Namely that Link is a sex pest, and that's about where the sexual tension ends.
Yeah, there's tension because he's harassing her. It's sexual, and there is tension. So this episode aired September 8th, 1989. But we have to back up a little bit and start talking about Mario now.
Where everything begins and ends.
Because that's where we're at right now. We're at the live-action segment of the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, which this week is called Slime Busters.
Oh, I had a lot of thoughts about this.
As the show opens, Mario and Luigi are fighting what they refer to as a ghost inside their plumbing company. It's just a weird blob of slime that they're hitting with things.
You know who else is a weird blob of slime? Slimer the ghost. Don't judge slime by how ghostly you think it is.
Well, Slimer is transparent.
Well, this was done with practical effects as opposed to CGI. I don't know how transparent they could make it when they just put a slimy glove on someone.
Slimer was practical effects. They just filmed him separate and then overlaid him so he looked see-through.
That's not the same.
Well, luckily, Mario, I guess, has already called the Slime Busters.
And they got the most available one to appear.
Ernie Hudson, thank goodness you're here. Where are the other slime busters?
Oh, we heard it was you. I lost the toss of the coin.
Here comes Ernie Hudson, who you may recognize as Winston from Ghostbusters, aka the only one they could afford.
We're not allowed to say the word Ghostbusters. We're not allowed to have a proton pack.
You're right. Yes, he shows up wearing a knockoff Ghostbusters uniform, and he refers to himself as a slime buster. It's very clear that they could not afford a Ghostbusters crossover. Ghostbusters was still big at the time. I checked, and the animated series was still running at this point. So this is clearly them trying to capitalize on that.
I mean, they just had guests on all the time.
They did, but this is so far the most blatant they've been about referencing a specific franchise, but they aren't going all the way. They clearly... I wonder if they contacted... Who owns Ghostbusters? Sony, I think? I wonder if they contacted them and asked if they could, actually make it a full Ghostbusters crossover, and then they weren't allowed to.
Probably.
Because there are other things where they did do a true crossover, and we'll look at some of those some other time. But there are certain crossovers where a character appears as the in-universe character, but Ernie Hudson doesn't get to do that.
No.
He is... This is the biggest star we've seen in the Super Show so far, I think.
Well, this is like the third episode, so yeah.
Yeah, this is the first one we've seen that I recognized. He's still, he's the least famous of the four Ghostbusters. Well, I don't know. Is he? Is Egon equally as famous as Winston?
I would say that Egon is probably more famous just because of, well,
as a character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about Harold. What is it, Harold Ramis? I think he was mostly known as a writer. I don't think he appeared in a lot of things.
All I know is that when he died, he sure received a lot of fanfare.
He did. At a stretch, I could maybe see Dan Aykroyd showing up in the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, just because he's kind of a nerd.
What? Dan Aykroyd a nerd?
There is no way that they would be able to get Bill Murray to do this, though.
They would have to wait a couple decades when he was at his low point doing voice acting for Garfield.
And Bill Murray barely shows up to projects he wants to do, so... So Ernie Hudson goes in in the bedroom looking for the ghost. And there's a lot of sound effects. I could barely hear what they were saying for some of this.
We got a sticky situation there.
The ghost was in the bedroom.
And then he comes out, and I guess he thinks Luigi is the ghost.
He says something about how it's the ugliest thing he's ever seen, and then the joke is that Luigi comes out of the door.
That's right.
That is the most disgusting, revolting, hideous entity I've ever seen.
Ernie, I'd like you to shake my brother's hand.
And Luigi's shimmy shaking.
Oh yeah. There is one thing I want to mention. When Luigi first goes into the room to fight the ghost, they hang on the scene just a little bit too long, where you can see that he's clearly just holding onto the door frame, like slightly out of view of the camera. You can see part of his leg, and they hang there just a little bit too long, and it sort of loses the effect.
Really? I don't remember that.
Yeah, Mario is going to answer the door to let the slime buster in.
Okay, so this is before Ernie shows up.
Hmm. When we're still getting all those good practical effects.
Yeah. For the kind of budget that we expect from the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, it was pretty good.
I loved it. I thought it was great. I also just really love practical effects.
Oh yeah, practical effects are great. I wonder, since this is the biggest budget, you know, it's not saying a lot, but this is clearly the biggest budget they've put into a live action segment up to this point. I wonder if that was on purpose because it's the first Zelda episode. Because Zelda was clearly like the special thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That was the once a week thing. It was the special treat. So I wonder if all the Zelda episodes also have higher budget live action segments too.
Well, I guess we're going to have to come back in a year and a half to look at episode 2.
I guess so. Should we play another theme song? Because now it's time.
We got a double whammy in this one.
Yeah, here it comes.
This is the Triforce of Wisdom, Link. The evil wizard Ganon has the Triforce of Power. Whoever gets both Triforces will rule this land forever. You must help me, Link.
Hey, for you, Zelda, anything.
Nice job, hero.
Hey, excuse me, princess.
They tried to fool us. They tried to make us think it was the boys again, and here we got this nonsense.
It's just the Zelda theme song.
It is.
It sounds pretty good, but I don't know what is happening.
Hijinks.
We get our first "Excuse Me, Princess" right there in the theme song.
The first of many.
Apparently, this comes from Dick executive Robbie London, who insisted that "Excuse Me, Princess" should be Link's catchphrase.
It makes him a real likable character.
And Bob Forward, the head writer, thought it was stupid, so he inserted it into the show as often as possible to make fun of the executive who demanded it.
Okay, I now appreciate this decision.
Yeah, me too.
It's annoying real fast.
Yeah. I think that's the point he was trying to prove. I think he was hoping that by the second season, they would be allowed to drop it as a catchphrase. Unfortunately, the second season didn't happen. This episode is called The Ringer. I'm not sure why.
No, it's not clear.
It's written by Bob Forward, the head writer. He also wrote for He-Man, Captain Planet, Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. He seemed to be a head writer on Biker Mice from Mars and Transformers Beast Wars and X-Men Evolution.
Do you think maybe it's because that mysterious magician is a dead ringer for Ganon?
He's not, though.
I mean, he is.
Well, I guess he is Ganon.
Universe Ganon. He's literally Ganon.
I guess so, alright. The show opens with a pretty nice rendition of the Zelda theme.
Yeah, the music is good.
Yeah, I was enjoying it. But Link
Ruins it.
is immediately unbearable.
Yeah. Another beautiful day in the magical kingdom of Hyrule. Boring place.
You know, it was kind of funny because before he opened his horrible mouth, I was thinking to myself that I like Link best when he's just like a dirty little forest boy instead of like a knight in service of the crown. And that's the first thing that he whines about too, but in a much more unbearable way.
Yeah, he complains about how beautiful Hyrule is because he only cares about being smelly and dirty.
He specifically cites missing sleeping in mud, and I did appreciate that.
Link is played by Jonathan Potts, who is known for playing Raoul in Beyblade.
Ooh.
And do you remember that show that I briefly became obsessed with for like half a day? Beverly Hills Teens.
Yes.
He plays Troy in that. That's like the main jock boy that all the girls are in love with.
Everyone's favorite character from everyone's favorite show.
I need to go and watch more Beverly Hills Teens. The show about teenagers with the heads of babies.
And the bodies of full-grown men.
I just really liked the theme song.
That's what kept you coming back?
There was something hypnotic about the show in general. I think just because it's very 80s. And the 80s is this weird period for me where I was like, I have the vaguest memories of it, but they feel like a fever dream because I was so young, you know?
Yeah.
And this show really just kind of encompasses it in a way that I haven't seen before.
Beverly Hills Teens.
Jonathan Potts says that he played Link as though Link was a puppy.
What does that mean?
Okay, he said, if you can imagine what a puppy would be like, running around, peeing on the carpet, and overreacting. Everything was dramatic. That's how he saw Link, running around, peeing on the carpet, and overreacting.
I get that interpretation of him, but I'm not sure it came through in this episode.
No. Because puppies have this sense of, like, playfulness and wonder about everything they do. And Link is just salty and horny. Those are his emotions.
He's kind of mean. He's kind of surly.
Yeah. I think Homer Simpson more accurately acts like a puppy than Link does. Fry from Futurama, he's like a puppy. Anyway, Link walks to the window so he can sexually harass the princess.
Yeah, the only thing that he cares about in this kingdom is ogling women from across the balcony.
Yeah, he's on a higher balcony, and he makes sure to let Zelda know that he's enjoying looking down her cleavage.
Looking good, princess. Especially from this angle.
And then he doesn't understand why she gets upset.
Like, it's not even subtle. This is supposed to be a kid's show. He just, like, kind of directly says that, and then we see her covering her cleavage as she runs away.
He's like, hey, princess, I can see straight down your cleavage. What did I do wrong?
Zelda is played by Cynthia Preston, whose most prolific role seems to be as Faith in General Hospital. She also played Olivia in Total Recall 2070, which I didn't know existed. But most of what she's done is single episode appearances on live action shows. She was on CSI, she was in 2.5 Men, she was in American Gods. And she stars in more than 10 Lifetime movies.
Wow.
So, that's her claim to fame as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, people love those Lifetime movies.
I had a brief obsession with Lifetime movies.
Okay, so now the truth is coming out.
Well, they're so dumb.
That's kind of why I can't watch them.
What is the difference between a Lifetime movie and a Hallmark movie?
I would say Hallmark is probably a little bit cleaner. Lifetime has the things like cyberbully, where they touch on some darker topics in the most strange ways possible.
Yeah, that's the stuff I like.
Did Lifetime have that movie Cyber Seduction?
Oh, did it? I don't know.
I have to... Cyber Seduction. His Secret Life.
What if it turns out this is one of the ones she was in?
That would be pretty incredible. Lifetime, yep. Oh, Lifetime.
All right, hold on. Let me pull up a list of her Lifetime movies. She starred in more than 10 Lifetime television movies, including The Love of Her Life, Dead at 17, A Sister's Secret, The Wife He Met Online, A Nanny's Revenge,
Ooh.
The Secret Sex Life of a Single Mom, Stalked by a Reality Star, and The Cheerleader Escort.
Oh my.
The Cheerleader Escort was fairly recent. That was 2019. So she's been doing these movies for over 10 years.
I mean, whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, whatever pays. Whatever pays the bills, man. Because clearly Zelda didn't. They should have brought her back for Breath of the Wild.
They should have. They should have had a secret cartoon Zelda skin.
This is also where we're introduced to Sprite, the fairy.
Ugh.
Yeah, Sprite is played by Paulina Gillis, aka Tabitha St. Germain, who we've talked about before. She is in a couple of the Mario shows we've looked at as our old friend Cootie Pie Cooper.
Okay. Okay. I have such a love-hate relationship with Cootie Pie.
I
Because
know.
she's terrible, but at the same time, pretty decently acted.
The thing about Cootie Pie is that she was, like... I remember her being pretty genuinely funny in the Super Mario Bros. 3 show.
She was!
And then just awful in the Super Mario World one.
It all depends on who's writing her, because the acting has been pretty good.
Yeah, that's true. Apparently, Sprite was added to the show because Bob Forward loved Tinkerbell when he was growing up. So this is just him wanting to write for Tinkerbell, basically, I guess.
He's living his best life.
And this is where some moblins show up and do a fight.
Yeah, the Moblins have been sneaking in this whole time that Link has been ogling Zelda.
Yes,
and
slowly.
Also, before I forget, can we talk about the fact that the intro talks about the Triforce, and it specifically mentions the Triforce of Power and the Triforce of... Which one do they have again?
Wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah. And it says whoever brings them together can rule the world, but it's a Triforce. There's 3 of them.
So this isn't exactly their fault. In the first Zelda game, there were only 2 pieces of the Triforce.
Okay.
And I don't understand it either. I don't know why it was called the Triforce. They are triangles. But yeah, Triforce does imply 3 to me. The Triforce of Courage wasn't introduced until Zelda 2. And they did have a Japanese copy of Zelda 2 for reference here, but I guess it was too Japanese for them to figure out that there was a third Triforce involved.
I told you no one could read it. You said there was nothing to read.
Yeah, well, yeah, all right. You found the thing. I found it really funny that apparently the Triforce of Wisdom is just kept in Link's bedroom. It's just a piece of furniture in there.
Well, yeah, because it's his job to guard it 24/7, so it's his roommate.
Do you think it just keeps trying to impart wisdom all night while he's trying to sleep?
Yeah, but the best part is it does it in bad rhymes.
Oh, yeah. There's like a weird gruntilda.
Yeah! It's like the goddesses have nothing better to do but to sit there and give bad rhymes through their chunk of the Triforce.
Yeah, because, I mean, it doesn't really come up in the show yet, but for later For later, I'll just say it now. The Triforces talk in this show. It's weird. I mean, I guess there was very little to work with. Because, I mean, I read an interview about it, and the writers weren't really sure what to do with the Triforce. Because in the first game, the purpose and function of the Triforce is not really defined. You're just told you need to collect all the pieces of the Triforce, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not told what the Triforce does, you're not told why you need it. So they were trying to figure out what to do with it, and I guess giving it a voice is all they could think of.
I don't even know where to go from there. Which Triforce would you have?
Of the three of them?
Mm-hmm.
Probably Courage. I'm not very wise. Or powerful. What about you?
Maybe Wisdom.
Yeah, I think
not very powerful or courageous.
I would say you're the smart one between the three of us.
You, me, and the audience. The sentient Granfaloon that is the audience.
Yeah, they have the Triforce of power.
That's pretty powerful. A big ball of human bodies.
Hey, they have the power to spread this show. If they share it with their friends and like and subscribe.
They also have the power to shoot lasers.
I always thought that power was an ill-defined Triforce quality. What does that really mean?
Maybe he has the fastest pitch in all of Hyrule.
Yeah. If you want to take the Triforce of power, you have to best Ganon in an arm wrestling contest.
You gotta go to one of those pitch measuring booths at the fair. Or like the strongman where you gotta whack the mallet and try and get it to ring the bell at the top.
You think that's what Ganon had to do when he stepped into the sacred realm to claim the Triforce of power?
Before you are 3 games. It's the whack-a-mole, the strongman, and something else, I don't know. It's
got to be a game for each virtue.
So one of them is actually just a haunted house. Or like a house of mirrors.
Yeah. And one of them is like, guess how many candies are in the jar. This is where Link defeats all the Moblins by shooting them with beams from his sword.
So that implies that this is the Master Sword, correct?
I think in the first game, I think every sword fires beams as long as you have full health.
Okay.
But that's not the reason that this happens. This is because the network wouldn't allow them to actually have Link hit enemies with his sword.
That's too violent.
Yeah, so the show mostly has his sword function as a laser gun.
Everything is a laser gun. They get a magic bow and arrow later, and it just fires arrows without arrows.
Oh yeah, Zelda calls them zap bolts.
Zap bolt.
I mean, she does run out of them.
She does.
Somehow.
She just kind of points the bowstring at Ganon, and it fires at him.
But yeah, Link actually takes that bow from one of these not dead moblins. When he puts the bow in his pouch, it shrinks down.
Yeah, there's a lot of like video game sound effects and video game physics in what is otherwise just a normal world.
Yeah, in Mario, I really appreciate all the video game sounds and the video game music and stuff. I think they really add to it. But in this, whenever there's a video game sound, they're quite infrequent, so when they do happen, it's like, oh, what? Weird.
It's because there's no tonal cohesion, so when you hear a video game sound after 10 solid minutes of normal ambient noises, it just feels weird.
Yeah, because there's only video game sounds. It's pretty much just Link's sword that makes video game sounds.
Guys, it's been a blast, but you're going home!
And his magic pouch.
Yeah. His sword, his pouch, and I guess Zelda's bow. I'm trying to think. I don't think the bombs that the Stalfos were throwing even made video game sounds. I think they just made explosions. They've gone out of their way to try and give us some explanation for Link's hammer space, which is something the games have never done. They've given him a magic pouch that shrinks things.
Yeah, I guess. They spend a lot of time in this cartoon narrating the exposition. I kind of stopped listening.
Yeah, well, they're trying to make sure we understand what's happening, and they still failed. Once all the moblins are gone, Zelda shows up in Link's room to slap him and shame him for the mess.
I mean, she slapped him for sexually assaulting him first thing in the morning, which, good for her.
Yeah. And then she just thinks that his room always looks like this. The thing I hated about this scene is that she comes up to slap him for the harassment, which is justified. But then she ends up apologizing to him because she didn't know there were moblins.
But I don't expect any reward. No, sir. Just a smack in the face is enough for me.
Oh, Link, I'm sorry.
He's such a big whiny baby, and he's like, there were 700 of them, and I killed them all with my bare hands. You should feel sorry for me because I saved the kingdom.
Yeah, you should give in to my sexual wiles. Zelda tells Link that he needs to stay there and guard the Triforce while she goes to judge the Magistans contest. That's what she says. I listened twice.
I'm already late to judge the Magician's contest.
I love that the Kingdom of Hyrule is just having this amateur magician competition for people to show up and just be like, look, I can make this slightly bigger.
Yeah, and clearly what's really happening here is that Zelda is getting Link out of the way so that they don't have a lawsuit on their hands in case there are any female contestants.
But that's not really enough when Sprite flies in and provides all of the horribleness we need.
Link screams in rage at having a job to do.
The job that he has had to do for who knows how long.
That he was complaining earlier about not getting to do enough.
But to be fair, I do sometimes scream when I have to do my own job. Some days you just don't want to.
The thing about this rage scream is that as Link screams with rage, it fades into Ganon doing the same thing, creating a thematic link between these two characters. To me implies that they're trying to say that Link is a bad guy. But, you know.
There's going to be a scene towards the end of this season where they are face to face and Ganon gives us the whole, we're not so different, you and I.
Link looks at the back of his hand and the Triforce of Power is there.
Link does a total heel turn.
I don't think the Triforce being on the back of Link's hand was a thing yet. I think Zelda 2 introduced that.
Well, I would guess not if they only had 2 chunks of the Triforce.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because Link's is courage, and that's the missing one.
Yeah, that's the one that doesn't exist yet. Ganon's voice.
You idiots bungled it again!
It's kind of unbearable.
Slightly.
It's very unsuited to Ganon as we know him now. But I guess there really wasn't much Ganon to work with at the time.
This is when he was almost exclusively pig and very little man.
Yeah, and you had to get to the final dungeon even to see what he looked like. Because the manual didn't have a picture of him, it just had a question mark where he was.
He missed yearbook day at school.
Ganon is played by Len Carlson, an old friend of ours.
Who did he do before?
He played Crusher in Donkey Kong Country.
Oh no.
He's yelling at some moblins. The same moblins who attacked Link, actually.
Yeah, but now they're being suspended in some kind of strange soul ball.
Well, would you like to know what that soul ball is officially called?
I need to know.
This is the Evil Jar.
The evil jar! Is that like when you eat a ghost in Pac-Man and their eyeballs go back to the spawn room?
Essentially, yeah. The evil jar was introduced to the show to give an explanation to what happens to enemies when they disappear after Link zaps them, because they weren't allowed to depict them dying. So they had to have this evil jar where all the dead enemies respawn, basically.
Spoiler alert, including Ganon.
Yeah. So really, Link can't actually defeat anyone. He can only send them home. He just has a go-home beam.
And then they can show up as many times as they want to harass him. But where does Link go when he dies?
Oh, good question. Does he go in the evil jar? Is that what the scream was foreshadowing? Ganon decides to put on a cloak and enter the magician's contest. The Triforce of Power is like sucking up to him. Because he says he's entering an amateur magician's contest, and then the Triforce of Power is like,
but you're no amateur. You're a pro.
Well, that's just the show explaining all of its exposition so that we don't have to think while we're watching TV.
The show letting us know that Ganon is a professional magician.
Right.
You can see him at Vegas.
He's the David Blaine of Hyrule. Because, it wasn't enough for us to witness Ganon, teleporting or summoning things with his hands. We had to be told.
Oh, yeah, he doesn't walk anywhere in his base, does he? He just teleports from spot to spot. He teleports,
and then he gets a bunch of Stalfos to carry him around.
The Triforce of Power is played by Alan Stewart Coates, who is one of those voice actors, or not just, he's one of those actors who's done like a ton of things, but no really big standout roles,
Yeah, he's just a bit actor.
He played Rataxes in Babar. I don't know who that is. And he played Voltaire in Beyblade. I don't know who that is either.
Is that the second time you've brought up Beyblade?
Yes. There are multiple Babar and Beyblade actors in this. It must have been the same, acting agency that handled the casting or something.
That's the Babar Beyblade continuum.
Babblade.
Let it
rip. Back in Hyrule, the magicians are showing Zelda what they can do.
I love it. It's like being at a Ren fair.
Yeah, I really love this one guy who's just growing tomatoes. And he just bursts it.
His spell is to make things grow faster, but it grows too big.
Here we get a little taste of how Zelda treats the common people. And, it seems like she's kind of awful too. Because this tomato explodes and some of the juice gets on her. And Ganon laughs, and she's immediately just like,
Who dares to laugh at me?
I shall not be made a fool of at my magician contest.
Yeah, also, there's no showmanship in this contest. It's literally just she's sitting in a seat at the top of some stairs, and they just come up and privately show her what they do.
I don't know what you mean about no showmanship when the entirety of the showmanship is in their wizard garb.
Well,
you must look so wizardly to actually be a wizard.
I mean, I was expecting it to be on stage, and they'd be like, I need a volunteer from the audience. That's the kind of thing I was expecting the wizard contest to be.
That sounds like a lot more work than they're willing to put in for this show.
I thought maybe there'd be a panel of judges and Zelda was one of them.
No, the only one that matters.
They literally just walk up the stairs to the chair and they're like, hello, princess, here's my thing.
Hello, princess, smell my socks.
That's... I just want everyone listening to know that that's real. That's a real thing that happens.
This is my best spell, Your Highness. It removes the stinkiness from my dirty socks.
I think if you haven't watched this show already, it's hard to appreciate that that's a real thing that happens.
that a man calling himself a wizard stepped in front of the Princess of Hyrule and said, I have a spell that can make these socks smell better.
Yeah, but first you need to smell the before.
We're doing this legitimately. I don't want to win by any nefarious means.
So Ganon turns a bird into a bat and sends it to spy on the Triforce. Nobody notices him doing this.
Well, first he produced the bird out of thin air to prove he is, in fact, a wizard.
Oh, is that what happened?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, and then she tells him he has to wait his turn.
Yeah, she's like, we got a long line. We're going to be here all afternoon. Get at the back.
Up in the tower, Sprite is hitting on Link almost as aggressively as he hits on Zelda.
How can I get Zelda to pay more attention to me?
Who cares? She's a snot. You should stick with me.
Sprite, you're only 3 inches high.
She really wants it. I don't know why.
I don't know why either. It's very strange.
It's probably just another Peter Pan reference. So this is where Ganon conjures a dragon suddenly.
Well, because one of the wizards produces a lizard to be like, look at how magical I am. And he conjures the lizard in Zelda's hand.
Guess what rhymes with wizard?
Oh, damn it, not lizard. That's not what I wanted. And then Ganon ambigifies it, and it turns into a dragon.
Yeah, I was wondering, because there are a few different dragons in the first Zelda game. I was wondering if this was one of them, but it doesn't really resemble any of them that closely.
No, this is Hand Lizard the dragon.
It looks a little bit like one of the dragons, but that dragon has multiple heads, and this one has only one head, so... But Link sees this happening, and he swings down from the tower to fight the dragon, and then he ends up cornered by its fire breath.
I just really want to know what he swung down out of the tower on, because there was a convenient rope there, and I want to know exactly what support he cut and who he damaged by doing it.
I thought it was just like... Oh, what do they call it? Where it's like a string with flags hanging from it.
Maybe, but you don't see any flags.
I thought you did before he cut it, but they definitely weren't there after he cut it, now that you mention it. Who knows? Maybe the stage that they had prepared for the wizard contest is destroyed, and they just didn't bother using it because they knew he was going to do this.
He does it every year.
Every time we build anything, Link destroys it with his libido.
I don't want to talk about Link's libido.
We've been talking about it this whole time, and we're going to be forced to continue talking about it by the show. So anyway, Zelda throws a plate in the air, and Link uses it to ricochet sword beams at the dragon. That's not how physics work, but okay. Or maybe the sword beams just have zero force to them. Because that's the only way that would work, right? Because the beams don't push the plate. The plate is unaffected by the beams.
The beams are made of pure magic.
That's true. This is where Link says,
Well, excuse me, princess.
Did you enjoy that?
No. No, I didn't enjoy it at all.
Ganon's up in the tower and he takes the Triforce, which immediately starts mocking him.
Evil is the path you choose, but evildoers always lose.
Silence!
I don't know why he wants it.
Well, because he needs it to conquer the world or whatever.
Yeah. But what's it? She's going to keep saying things like this to him.
Well, he can just lock it in another room. It's not like he has to listen to it all day. It's not friends with him like the Triforce of Power.
Oh, yeah. Do you think if you put the Triforce of Power and the Triforce of Wisdom in a room, they just bicker all day?
Like getting two chatbots to talk to each other?
Yeah. The Triforce of Wisdom is played by Elizabeth Hanna, who played all of the serve bots in Mega Man Legends.
Wow.
She also played Mademoiselle Diva in Police Academy, the animated series, which I didn't know existed.
Neither did I.
And she played Mama in Hello Kitty stuff in the late 80s and early 90s.
That's fun.
And she played Hen in the Little Bear series. I'm vaguely aware of the Little Bear series. I've never watched it.
I completely forgot Little Bear existed.
Did you ever
until
watch
said
it?
that. I did and I didn't. I was a little bit too old for it, but like it would be on and I would mindlessly consume it
Oh,
sometimes.
yeah. That sounds about what my relationship with Little Bear was. I just didn't see it on that much. I don't remember there being a hen.
Me neither.
I love, like, once Ganon has the Triforce, he just leaps out the window and lands heavily on his cart. And, like, all the Stalfos carrying it collapse and lose their disguises.
And yet they're prepared for it.
Yeah. And then, my favorite part of the whole episode, as the Stalfos carry Ganon away at a little bit below a regular running speed, I'd say they're going at about a walking speed, Link watches them from about 5 feet away and says that there's no way they could ever catch them now.
Ganon's got the Triforce of Wisdom!
And he's getting away! We'll never catch him now!
It was infuriating.
He makes zero attempt to move. He's just standing there in like a relaxed posture, watching them run away. He's just like, well, we did everything we could.
Him and Zelda, they're both resigned to just watching Ganon get away with it.
Even though they could probably catch up with them at a gentle jog.
Yeah. But instead, well, I am glad that they gave this wizard the moment in the spotlight that he deserved.
They
let the wizard use his growing magic to grow a tree that they used to trebuchet themselves at Ganon.
I'm sad I couldn't find out who played this wizard, because he's great. I assume he never appears again.
I hope he's in many episodes to come.
And he doesn't even get named, so...
He's just the plant wizard.
I love they fly through the air, and then Zelda questions how they're going to get down, and then there's just a really long shot of the forest with nothing happening before they finally collapse into it.
How are we going to get down?
She questions how they're going to get down as if gravity is not a thing. Like, they need a plan before they can get out of the sky.
Also, as if this wasn't her plan to begin with. Like, this was her idea. Did she just think they were going to be up there forever?
Maybe. Maybe she thought that Ganon would be in the sky and they would just land on him.
I love that... Well, no, I don't love this. I hate that they land and then Link immediately just casually demands a kiss.
Ta-da! Saved your life again. Kiss me.
I broke your fall with my body. You deserve to kiss me.
But he doesn't like reason with her that he deserves a kiss. He just demands one.
Yeah.
And he does it so casually as well, like he just expects one.
Well, yeah, he's been making demands of her ever since he got there.
It's true. And
Why would this be any different?
We don't even know how long he's been there either, because this is another one of those shows where obviously they had no idea what order they were going to be shown in, and they figured they were going to be repeated fairly often. So this episode is presented as though it's just one of many. This episode isn't like a setup or anything. We're not introduced properly to anything, really.
Yeah, this is just in medias res.
Yeah, we're just to assume that Link has been in Hyrule for some time already. They get surrounded by Stalfos during the fight scene, and Link takes off his belt to tie Zelda to him, presumably to stop her from escaping his clutches.
That's the only thing it could be. There's no strategic reason why they would need to strap themselves together.
No, he says to go back to back, which makes sense because they're surrounded, but there's no need for them to be wearing one belt.
To physically bind themselves back to back.
Yeah, he's just worried that if he takes his eyes off her, she'll run. She'll run for the authorities.
Because she should.
Yeah. There's a part where one of the Stalfos gets, like, knocked across the clearing, and then Ganon just demonstrates boxing to it for a long and uncomfortable time.
Yeah, because he's unimpressed with the way the Stalfos are fighting, so he shows them his MMA skills.
Which are not very good.
No, you imbeciles! Get them like this!
Well, he lives in an echo chamber with the Triforce of Power and a bunch of moblins, so he's
true.
not really aware of that.
He would be the stage 1 Punch-Out enemy.
Soda Popinski.
I think the stage 1 is Glass Joe.
Oh, that's right.
So Ganon throws a bomb at his own Stalfos and wipes pretty much all of them out at once.
I didn't pay attention to the fight that much. It was boring.
Yeah. The main thing I paid attention to was that at one point Link zaps one of them and says,
Gotcha, Stalfo!
Right, one single Stalfo.
Yeah, clearly they misunderstood Stalfos as being a plural, which it is not.
As we all know, the plural of Stalfos is Stalfoses.
There's a bomb thrown at them, and Link uses his sword to bat it back towards Ganon. And the animation on that specific swing where he hits the bomb with his sword was really good. It was just one little bit of really, really good animation. It had some real weight to it.
Buried in between all of this schlock.
Yeah. I mean, the rest of the animation isn't bad. We've seen worse.
This is true.
But
it's not bad, but it's not memorable.
No, that for me, that clubbing the bomb was the one standout moment of good animation in this episode.
I was just distracted by the fact that the bombs had spikes on them.
Yeah, which they don't in the game.
No.
They just look like cartoon bombs in the game.
As all bombs look like.
Yeah. And they're blue in the game. So Ganon explodes, and the Triforce survives the explosion and bounces back towards Link and Zelda.
Yeah, Ganon has produced a mysterious cave door from the ground to go hide in his underground kingdom of darkness.
Oh yeah, his secret entrance to the underworld, as he says.
Yeah. And Link just knocks the bomb in there.
Yeah, because I think in the first game, I think the dungeons are referred to as the underworld.
Okay.
So I think every dungeon entrance is referred to as like an entrance to the underworld.
Link goes to hell.
Yeah, basically. Where Ganon lives. As I suspected, Link is revealed to have been using the belt to tie them together so that he could demand another kiss.
He will not release Zelda until she gives him a kiss.
Yeah, and she gives in. Respect yourself, girl. Yeah, she's about to until Sprite arrives to rescue Zelda from her harasser.
I never thought I would be happy to see Sprite show up.
No, and I wasn't happy about the close-up.
No, that was not enjoyable.
Really underlined how ugly Sprite is. Now we see Ganon trapped inside the evil jar.
Waiting to respawn.
He's waiting in a queue.
He's got a 10-second cooldown. Maybe he's gonna switch class before he comes back.
It would be the smart thing to do, but I don't think he's gonna.
No.
Clearly he does not know how to play a wizard. Man, he showed us. He wants to play a fighter, but he's spec'd as a wizard.
Yeah. And he can't afford any of those potions to redo his attributes, so he's stuck.
No, you have to have a subscription to get those potions.
Oh, okay.
And he's F2P.
He's got a ghastly gibbous on. The Pyrovision goggles.
Anyway, Zelda is over. We have defeated the Legend of Zelda. However,
we have not defeated the slime monster.
Back in Super Mario Brothers world, Ernie is still trying to find the ghost, no matter how obviously possessed Luigi is.
Well, at first glance, he is not possessed. It's only after he takes a bite out of a styrofoam plate that we see his entire arm is ghost.
Well, also the way he's talking.
Speaking of eating, this is my favorite dish.
He could just be doing a funny voice. You don't know.
I guess.
If I shot you every single time I thought you were possessed because you were doing a funny voice.
You wouldn't shoot me if you thought I was possessed, though. You'd encourage whatever I was doing.
That's true. I try to beckon whatever it was out of you and into a jar.
Or into you.
Together we can make such beautiful music.
I'm lying here on this pentagram.
Slapping my belly, beckoning it.
Yeah, Luigi is talking about how he's discovered his new favorite food, and you think he's talking about the slice of pizza on his plate, but he wants to eat the plate.
Delicious styrofoam.
There's so much noise in this segment. Like, there's so many sound effects and so much music, and then the audience laughter.
It's a lot. It's a bit of a sensory overload.
It can be a real challenge to hear what the actors are saying sometimes.
Yeah.
Aha! What was that, eh? He's here.
Anyway, Luigi starts to turn more and more into a slime creature. And I did like the slime glove he was wearing.
It was good.
And they had some kind of like overlay, some kind of weird, funny, glowy overlay that was appearing on him.
A Gloverlay, if you will.
Yeah. So Ernie shoots him, or shoots a pizza pie that he holds up in front of his face. A pizza pie tray.
It was very confusing because Ernie makes it clear that this is a long shot, and if he doesn't get it exactly right, then he's gonna leave Luigi as a drooling zombie forever. And then Luigi holds up a reflective dish, which Ernie shoots directly at, so it seemingly doesn't hit Luigi at all.
Yeah, but then Luigi's fine.
And the dish is now haunted.
Yes. So does the gun haunt things?
It shoots ghosts.
It's a ghost shooting gun.
Maybe it just made the dish a more attractive target. It coated it in good ectoplasm.
Oh, maybe.
Like, this Luigi is completely barren of ectoplasm. This is an inhospitable place to live.
It's a shame because once Luigi was back to normal, I was reminded that Luigi is my favorite in this show.
Yeah.
And he's just not really been in this episode because he's been possessed the whole time.
Yeah.
I love Luigi in this. He's really good.
You okay, Luigi?
Whoa. Well, the good news is I ain't no drooling moronic zombie.
Anyway, Ernie Hudson does the Mario with Mario and Luigi.
Till next time, everybody, do the Mario!
And then it's all over.
That's how we end our episode of Zelda, with a Ghostbuster doing the Mario.
With Mario and Luigi. If they ever make another Zelda show, it better end the same way. But now Zelda has more money, so they can actually pay for the Ghostbusters reference.
True. Now Zelda's worth way more than the Ghostbusters.
Yeah. God, that's weird to think about, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Back in these days, Mario and Zelda were this rinky-dink little kids thing that couldn't afford to get the Ghostbusters. And now the Ghostbusters are in Planet Zoo. Which is an indie zoo tycoon game. Actually, no, I think they're in Planet Coaster, not Planet Zoo. My bad. They're not quite the juggernaut they once were, though.
No.
And I don't mean this to, like, shit on Planet Coaster, because I fucking love Planet Coaster. I'm just saying, you know, it's funny that Planet Coaster could afford the Ghostbusters, and the Mario Brothers couldn't back then.
Yeah.
What do you think there is about the legacy of this show?
I think Sprite gets a spin-off game.
Well, Sprite is the one thing that I did zero in on, actually, since you bring it up, because this is the first time Link has been given a fairy companion, which is pretty standard now.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they had this show in mind when they put that in the games. I think that evolved into the games naturally. Because Navi was the first, and Navi very much evolved out of gameplay mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Navi is there because they needed some physical way to demonstrate the Z targeting system and some kind of inbuilt hint system for the game.
Some kind of way to drive you insane.
Yeah. And I think a fairy companion just made the most sense. So I don't think that was actually inspired by Sprite here. And as far as everything else goes, pretty much everything that this show interpreted was then interpreted differently by later games. So
yeah, I had a feeling.
Like they got the Triforce wrong, they got Ganon wrong. I do think, actually, I think I've read before that this cartoon was part of the decision about Link never speaking.
This cartoon ruined speech forever.
Yeah, it maybe wasn't entirely this cartoon. Maybe the CDI games were something to do with it as well. But
Link really did have some really bad speaking roles in his life, didn't he?
He sure did. But I don't know 100%. I just tried to find out and I couldn't find anything about it. But I don't know whether Link never speaking is this show's fault partially, but I've definitely seen that posited before as an explanation. And I feel like I've seen Miyamoto say that he didn't think that Link speaking was a good idea after watching the cartoons, but I can't confirm that. I mean, he's always had a voice since, but he's never been given actual lines since this.
Right.
Even now that every other character in Zelda is fully voiced, Link still doesn't speak. Then, like in Hyrule Warriors, they gave Link a new fairy companion to do his speaking for him, because it was necessary for him to speak, because if you're not playing as him, he needs to update you on what he's doing.
Oh, yeah.
So they gave him a new fairy to do that instead. I think her name is Proxy.
Appropriate.
Did you enjoy this show?
No, I didn't.
No.
I enjoyed the Mario sections, and I enjoyed the wizard that made things grow.
You didn't enjoy... God, what else even happened? Didn't enjoy the constant sexual harassment?
No.
From the hero?
No, I did not.
What a choice. I want to go watch Moonlighting now. Is Moonlighting just a show where Bruce Willis sexually harasses Sybil Shepherd every week? Or did they just really miss the mark with this show?
When you first mentioned the name of the movie, I got it confused.
It's a TV show.
Oh, TV show. I got it confused for the movie Moonstruck, starring Cher and Nicolas Cage. And so
Of course.
My idea of Zelda became very different.
Of course you mistook it for something with Nicolas Cage.
I mistake everything for something with Nicolas Cage because I'm living in my ideal world.
You're living in the Nicolas Cage.
I wish. Moonstruck was actually really boring.
Whenever we end up making a biopic of your life, we're just going to call it Caged.
I approve.
Yeah, I didn't like this show very much. You know, in a lot of the interviews I was reading with the people who made the show, their impression of it was that the Zelda segments are considered the only good part of the Mario Brothers Super Show. And I was kind of like, where did they get that idea from? Because the way I remember it, at least over here in the UK, the way I remember it is the Zelda segments were shown once and then vanished from the airwaves, while the Super Mario Brothers Super Show continued to have reruns for like 10 years.
I feel like it probably came from people that take themselves too seriously, and they're like, oh, we can't watch the Mario. It's too goofy. It's too video games, but Zelda is highbrow.
I am willing to bet that their entire experience with the reception of the show has come from people who find out they worked on it and then say to them, "Oh, that was my favorite part. You guys did such a good job."
Probably.
Because people aren't going to come up to them and be like, "Man, that was garbage." Like, you're not going to write a letter, because they were talking about the letters they get, because they still get letters from people about the show.
Oh my god.
And people aren't going to like take the time to sit down and write a letter saying that they hated something.
Well, in the age of the internet, I feel like that's not as true.
Well, I think the people who worked on the show are a little bit older than... Oh, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, I'm glad they're proud of it.
Yeah.
Some of them seemed a bit apologetic about it.
We're sorry that we stole Link's voice. Sorry that he's no longer allowed to speak because of what we did.
I think it was more... The impression I got from reading the interviews, it was more like... We might have put some more into this had we known how big Zelda would become. Because at the time, there's only one game out. It's too soon to say. You know, they're not going to know that Zelda's going to be one of the biggest franchises in video gaming in 30 years' time.
You're telling me they didn't predict Tears of the Kingdom 30 years ago?
They hadn't predicted A Link to the Past back then. You can tell that from watching this. But, you know, they did what they could with what they had, which was very little. There was very, very little to work with.
I guess. But I feel like even Captain N is more entertaining, and they had negative notes to work with.
That's true.
They were given half of the name of a video game scrawled on a torn and coffee-stained sheet of paper.
And a video with a green Mega Man on a broken TV.
Filmed through a foggy mirror.
I just remembered what they did to Kraid. Do you remember Kraid in the show?
Yes.
I mean, this was the same people. Captain N was basically part of the same production as this. Just Captain N was the weekend show. This was the Friday show. Mario was the Monday to Thursday show, and Captain N was the weekend show.
I don't even know how to handle that news.
No.
None of it's good.
No. Yeah, you know, even with the Mario Super Show, it's the live action stuff that I like the most.
Mm-hmm.
I think Super Mario Brothers 3 is my favorite of all the Dick things that we've... All the Nintendo Dick things that we've seen. If we're counting all of the Dick stuff in general, it's probably Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog that was my favorite.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. I think we're about done, right?
There's not a whole lot to say.
We'll be back next week with something else. In the meantime, why not consider going to our Patreon at patreon.com/SuperBreakfastFriendsClub and maybe kick in a couple bucks our way so that we can help to afford some better microphones.
That'll be better to everyone's ears.
Especially yours, the listener.
But especially Bart.
You can also find us at coffee.com/SuperBreakfastFriendsClub. And you can find us on Twitter at SBreakfastFC. If you're interested in The Legend of Zelda, I am currently attempting to stream all of the Legend of Zelda games in order. Zelda 2 has become quite a chore.
Zelda 2 has broken you as a person.
I'm about 2/3 of the way through Zelda 2. Oh wait, I guess I won't be by the time this episode comes out. Hopefully, I'll be in the middle of Zelda 3 by the time this episode comes out. But we'll see.
The nightmare will be over. The screaming will stop.
Bye. You would like it.
I am not gonna play it!